Winning the Cricket World Cup in India means more to Pat Cummins than any other of this year's great achievements. In 2023, the Aussies retained the Ashes and claimed the World Test Championship. Add in a Test tour to India, an Australian captain may never see another year like it. Our reporter Luke Doherty sat down with Cummins to reflect on the big moments.
Pat, thanks for your time. If someone had come up to you while you're playing backyard cricket all those years ago and said, one day you're going to be the Australian captain, and in the space of a matter of months, you're going to win the World Test Championship, the One Day World Cup and the Ashes as well, what would you have said to them?
Oh, insane. Even I think just being a professional cricketer as a kid, I would have just thought that's ridiculous. So, yeah, it's still, it doesn't really feel real. It's been a hell of a year. So, yeah, pretty big smile on my face at the moment. When
you get home that first night in your own bed in what must seem like forever, you put your feet on the ground, does the thought go through your head that this can't have been real, it can't have really happened?
As part of that, still just buzzing, just happy, elated, and then, going down for a coffee down at the beach feels a lot different to sitting in a 100,000 seater stadium where everyone's wearing, blue Indian jerseys. So, it's still crazy. I think the magnitude of it, whilst we feel, I still think we'll look back on this moment in years to come and appreciate it even more.
Might be a difficult question, but does one mean more than another in terms of all that silverware?
I'd say this one. It's got a rich history. They're the hardest to win. You only get a shot at it every 4 years. Every, serious international team around the world's playing in this one tournament, and so many things need to come together. So, to lift that trophy with this group of guys, I can't imagine a better moment in a career.
You face probably hourly, daily, weekly, monthly challenges right throughout that whole period. Did you learn anything about yourself as a leader throughout that process?
Yeah, for sure. You learn things every day. I think some of the lessons is it's never going to be perfect. There's always, every day there's going to be something that pops up that needs to be addressed and dealt with, and it's how you deal with those kind of things that pop up rather than trying to avoid all of them. But I think you keep backing the players in, trusting the style of cricket that you want to play, how you want to go about it, and fortunately this time came off. But if it doesn't, it's got to still keep trusting what makes you a really good team.
One of those flashpoints, of course, perhaps the biggest, came during the Ashes and the Johnny Bairstow stumping saga. There was so much noise, both here, around the team, right across the UK. Everyone seemed to have an opinion. Were there moments where you questioned whether you pulled the right rein and whether you could have handled things differently, or were you confident that you got it spot on?
I was confident straight away that's seen this in cricket a lot, and this is how cricket's played. Certainly with all the noise, you ask around and you get a sentiment from other people, and I was really comfortable with how it played out. I guess the lesson there is the loudest voice in the room isn't always the most. Doesn't mean it's right. Doesn't mean it's the majority. It's just a really loud, minority. And as long as we can hold our heads high with how we kind of played and conducted ourselves in that moment, which I think we can, really the noise is fine. You can deal with that.
Whether the team needed a disciplinarian coach or someone who allowed things a little bit more player-led in terms of environment was always going to be keenly watched throughout the course of these series and these tournaments. You put a lot of focus on personal player responsibility. Why does that work?
The most obvious reason why it works is we're all adults. We're all grown men. We've been doing this for a long time. We've got a lot on the line when we step over the fence. So I think adding extra pressure, extra expectations isn't going to bring the best out of our boys. So, you treat people like adults, they act like adults. And we've got a wonderful group. Might not always be that way. We're lucky that we're experienced. But I think you've seen the best. That's the best way to get kind of, the best version of each player.
There's a T20 World Cup next year in the US and the West Indies. Is that something you want to be there for, or is T20 something that perhaps might slip off your radar, or where are you at?
No, yeah, desperate to be there. We won the World Cup, not last World Cup, the one before. Weren't at our best last World Cup, so really keen to, have another good showing. It's a format I love, but it's probably over the last 5 years, with the amount of Test cricket we've played, haven't been able to give it as big a focus as I would have liked. But now I feel like, I feel like my white ball cricket's got better over the last year or so. I feel like it's kind of clicking at the right time, and keen to get stuck into some T20s.
Just on the topic of David Warner, he's publicly stated that he'd like a farewell series, he'd like a farewell test here at the SCG. We know that you've publicly advocated for him in the past in terms of things around ending his leadership ban. So do you think that David Warner deserves a farewell test here in Sydney? We know that athletes don't often get to choose their own endpoint.
Yeah, I mean, I'm Davey's biggest fan. I love the bloke. He's awesome. So team's not picked yet, so that's the selector's job. They'll pick the team. But there's a lot of sentiment in sport, but it always comes down to performance, and that's what you're thinking when you're picking any team. But he's been a great of our game, and he had a fantastic World Cup.
Pat, thanks very much for your time. Really appreciate it, and well done.
Thanks very much. Cheers.